Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. This is going to be a year-end IHIS review. And this was kind of a tough year. There were a lot of things that happened, a lot of changes, especially in February and May. So I'm going to hit the high points of those, and then I'm also going to talk about some metrics in terms of how much impact to the electronic medical record do researchers do. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Paula, and I'm the IHIS trainer for clinical research. I've had this position for 6.5 years, and before that I was a research nurse. So I always like to say I know all the trials and tribulations of conducting clinical trials. All right, so here's our agenda. Again, I'm going to start out with metrics. We're going to do a high-level view of some of the major changes that happened this year. And then I have one slide, don't get too excited, of some of the things that we could be looking for in 2020. Now, we're going to start with research metrics. And here's the thing. So with our metrics, every time you see a question that has a holiday question mark, you get to guess what the answer might be. If you answer correctly, you get a prize. Now, we have two types of prizes. We have holiday prizes, and we have everyday prizes. Okay? I want to be respectful to everyone. I know some people are just bah humbug, and I respect that. But we have something for everybody, and I think they're kind of good. Also, thank you, everyone who picked up your badge pulls. Those are courtesy of me, too. I wish I would have brought more. There's one left. So afterwards, you can stampede down and try to get that last one. Okay, so we're going to start with metrics. And here we go. So again, here's our example. We have our holiday question mark. All right? So first question, how many research encounters were created from January 1st to November 15th? And it was November 15th because that's when I requested the information. I wasn't expecting to get it so fast. So who wants to guess? How many research encounters? Anybody? I mean, that's fine. 10? 30? What do you think? 5,000. 5,000, great. Anybody else? 30,000. 30,000, good. Anyone else? 12, good. Any other guesses? Because once you start seeing these prizes, everyone's going to be in them. All right, so our top was Kathy, who said 30,000. And here's our chart. So I started this with 2011. That's when it was our official Big Bang, even though there was research functionality prior to 2011. But here we go. Last year in 2018, we had over 80,000 research encounters. And through November of this year, we had 67,000. So it wouldn't surprise me if we hit 80,000 this year. So Kathy, congratulations. Do you want a prize that's every day or holiday? Holiday, okay. So no peeking, just reach in there and grab something. Or maybe Amy will have you peek. Whatever you think. So we'll see. Now, whoever gets to guess next, you can steal from her. I'm okay with that. Kathy might not be okay. Oh, good. Now that lights up. It lights up. You can show everybody what you got. She got the light up headband, everybody. All right, that's great. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for getting us started. But anyway, I think these research metrics are interesting. It shows the volume of activity that clinical researchers are doing. And you guys are doing really important stuff out there. So next up, research telephone encounters. How many do you think from January to the middle of November? Don't be shy, just shout it out. 10,000, thank you. Anybody else? 2? You said 2, okay. What do you got? 30,000, okay. 100,000. Anybody else? How many? 50, okay. I like it, okay. You guys are great. These are great guesses. So we had a 10,000 and a 2,000. Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked. It was actually just over 6,000, so that feels like a tie. And it's a good thing I brought enough stuff. So we could do a tie over here. Raise your hand. Where's my 10 and my 2? Yeah, go ahead, raise your hand. So you can pick everyday or holiday. Let's see what you get. Holiday it is, and the fine Dachshund holiday gift bag. Candy canes, score, yes. Every day. All right, so we got candy canes and I love that thing. Oh, she took the earbuds. Earbuds, okay. It's a good gift. Practical. All right, next question. How many research notes? So when you think about research notes, they're in research encounters, they're in research telephone encounters, and there's inpatient notes. So I kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what that number might be. So what do you think? 100,000, very good. 150, I like you guys. Okay, what else? Anyone? 300. I love it. Anyone else? 130, okay. Last chance? 10,000. Okay, good. All right, we actually had 71,000 in 2019. So I think our 100,000 person was probably the closest. 100? Okay, holiday or every day?
I kind of want to steal that light up headband.
Okay, well, if you want to steal, I'm okay with it.
I don't think so, but there's something happening here.
Now, don't advertise. Don't advertise.
Or a scarf.
Okay, now Amy. She does great marketing. Thank you. Awesome, thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, next up. How many active IHIS research users do we have? What do you think? 40,000? 40,000? Numbers are lower. 100. Thank you. Anybody else? 600. Okay. I'm going to call our winner. It's 600 over here. We're actually 760. Okay, so would you like a holiday gift or every day? Holiday, here it comes. All right, so while Amy makes her way over there, I'm going to show you the next question. Active studies in IHIS. So think about that as we get our gift selected over here, our prize. I'm going to use the word prize. And remember, you can steal. That's fine. Okay, candy canes. Candy canes? Awesome. All right, great. So how many active research studies do we have? 3,000? 500? 1,500? Great. Anybody else? 1,501. And who said 4,000? Okay, I'm going to call this one. The answer is 3,925. So it's going to go to our 4,000 guests. Yeah, holiday or every day? What would you like? Awesome. Well, it's okay. Oh, Santa hat. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, you look great. She's got the Santa hat on. Awesome. Okay, next question. How many research users took training in 2019? So we have two classes, so these are two questions. So let's start with the first one. IHIS Research Fundamentals. How much volume do you think is coming through training? 200. That's a good. Okay.
350.
Okay. 200, 300, and 350, right? Okay. And then let's go to the next one. We have a winner there. And IHIS Research Documentation. How many people took that class? Through December 5th. Last week. 400, 300. Anybody else? Okay, great. Let's stop there. So our winner for the first one was 200. Raise your hand proudly. Awesome. And then for IHIS Research Documentation, it was 150. Did you look at my slides or something? That was really good. Yeah, so actually that's a pretty decent volume for us in training. Lots of our trainings have transitioned to e-learning. So in terms of classes that are still instructor-led, this is one of the higher volume classes that we have. Over here. Raise your hand. Raise it proudly.
This table is putting all of you guys.
You could what?
I already got one.
She did already get one.
I have enough. Yeah, go ahead. So you could be a 2-time prize winner. All right, so we'll look at the next question. How many open research encounters are there? Too many. Too many. Okay, let's have some guesses. What do you think? 150. Okay, decent guess. Anybody else? 250. 400. The numbers are going up. Who said something in the thousands? What was your guess? 10,000. Well, it's funny you use that number because when we first realized we had an open encounter issue, we had almost 10,000. That was true. That's not one of our prize answers, but when we did the switch in 2016, we took the progress note out of research encounters and we placed it with the research note. We found that there were almost 10,000 open encounters, and that was not expected. So ever since then, we get an open encounters report to kind of track that. Gosh, I lost track of my guesses. Someone said something in the thousands, 1,000. What'd you say? You said anybody else? Who else was in the thousands? 1,500. Okay, I'm going to call it right there. It's 1,406. So this is as of early December. And would you like holiday or everyday? Holiday, awesome. I guess I should have gotten more holiday. But let's talk about open encounters. So I'm going to point here with my laser. So at the top image here, everyone should know if they have any open encounters because as soon as you log in on the dashboard, it says My Other Encounters, and that tells you that there's an encounter that's open. So I also have up here the medical record documentation guidelines, and these were updated earlier this year. And there is a section in there on closing outpatient encounters. And I forgot my glasses, but I'm going to read this out loud as I squint. It says, closing an encounter should be completed as soon after the date of the encounter as possible. Encounters should be closed as soon as the information needed to establish the final diagnosis is received and reviewed. In cases where the information is available, encounters should be closed within 1 week. So think about that, okay? All right, what was the most referenced IHIS research tip sheet? Billing, that was a good guess. And actually, I was surprised by this. Just think of any workflow in IHIS, especially one that troubles you. That's what I thought it would be. I thought it would be something related to CareLink, but it's not, so yeah. We have our winner, ordering for research. So raise your hand up so Amy can come and get you. Would you like holiday or everyday? Yay. Okay, good. So we'll talk this out as she gets her prize. So ordering for research had 130 views. I feel like the most commonly thing I'm asked about is getting access for monitors and auditors and CareLink. I feel like I'm sending that one out a lot. But it recently in November, which I'm about to talk about, the name changed from DocLink to CareLink, and that kind of, it got a new link. So it might have been the winner, but since it got a new link, that can't be seen. So for right now, it's ordering for research. Okay, how many types of research access? We're almost done here. How many types of research access? Anyone have a guess? 10. We got our 10, 7. Anyone else? 4. Okay, I think we're going to say 4. 4 is the winner. It's actually 5. Don't worry, Amy, you'll get a bracket right here. Andrea, yeah. Aren't they great? I know, I think they're great too. So we have research view only. We've got chart audit, which is our in-basket only. We've got documentation, access, scheduling, and billing. And I have a little reminder here at the bottom that if you're a manager or director, please remember to update access for internal transfers and then make sure to put in tickets for new hires. I know it's busy. I know everyone's more than 1.0 FTEs, but try to keep this in the forefront of your mind. And then I think this is the last question in our first section here. So how many patients are on research studies? I love this one. I thought this was interesting. So think of all the records in our system. How many patients are research active?
6,000.
I like it. 6,000. 500,000? Okay, that's 7. Okay, keep going. I need some. 10, 40, 25. No one's close yet. How about over 50,000? Someone guessed something over 50. 75. Who said 75? Okay, 75. Sold. It's actually 97,632. And that's out of 3,500,000. Okay, so that's a lot of research.
85.
However, disclaimer here. Oh yeah, holiday or every day? Every day. Here we go. So disclaimer here. So I used to be a research nurse here, and I used to document NIHIS, and it was probably the easiest thing for me to do was to forget to go back and complete my patients. So when your patients are off study, they're lost to follow-up, they're deceased, please make sure that you go back and update the system to reflect that. Our winner has gotten a telescopic back scratcher. Yeah, really cool. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the changes that actually hit the system. If you saw one of my earlier presentations this year, you saw this slide. They consider this the roadmap for 2019. And since we're in December, I'm going to call this memory lane. So it starts, actually, they have last year's physician efficiency list, but we had the February changes. In April, we went live with Grand Central, which is our inpatient system and how patients move about our health system. And then we had a May update, an August update in November, and then in July we had our Beaker implementation. So we're going to start with February. And some of these things might just seem like old hat to you because you're so used to seeing them. But I'm guessing there's going to be a couple things that maybe slipped under your radar. So first and foremost, you should be all used to this by now. We have a new login screen, and with some of the iconic, as they call it, images around campus. They also have this Discover What's New in IHIS. So they have these pop-up messages and videos that actually give you tutorials, which is kind of nice because it's explaining it to you right at the point when you need to use it, as opposed to finding out about it and then 3 weeks later needing to use it and you forget. So that's kind of a nice feature. We also had SOGI, they called it for short, sexual orientation and gender identity. So what our health system wanted to do was improve the health of gender and sexual minorities. And so we changed the look to the header, the wristbands, and the patient labels. And especially in terms of the header, back when it was still a header, which is, I feel awkward talking about the header since it's long gone. But we put preferred name, legal sex, gender identity, and sex assigned at birth. Schedules got a different look. So when you first log into the schedule and open that up, it opens up to your schedule. So what you have to do is, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You have to, laser pointer, there you are, hit that down arrow to open up the calendar. And then once you hit that down arrow, pin it to permanently have that over there. I'm still finding people who haven't done it, and it just makes it a lot easier if you want to see who's coming in the future or who came back in the past. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in addition to being able to create and have your different calendars customized there. If you have questions as I go along, feel free to just shout them out. Another feature we got is the bookmark. So from chart review, you can find something that maybe is of interest in, and these screenshots, I have an example of a physician's note that could be used for a visit 1. So all you have to do is select that note and right-click on it and add it to the bookmark. There is also, right here where this red box is, there's the bookmark symbol. So if you just click on it, it adds it to the bookmarks. And then this lower screenshot from chart review. The first tab is actually bookmarks, and then they all collect there. So it saves you from having to go through and look for things over and over again. That's the plus side. Potential downer is that everyone can make a bookmark. So if there are 15 people in a clinic making bookmarks, then they're all going to be there. So maybe the problem that you were hoping to resolve, actually it didn't help that much. But give it a shot and see if that can be helpful for you. Adverse events. Now, I feel like I am the lone person who believes in adverse events. Has anyone looked at that and felt like this is just all wrong? And don't be shy. It's just all wrong. Okay, no one raised their hand. You inspire me. So, adverse events. It hasn't gone well, and in fact, this is our next question. How many adverse events have been placed in IHIS since we got that feature in February? 0, 2. Anything else? 50, 300. Okay, I like that. There's hope there. I'm going to call, the winner is 2. Who said 2? Okay, it's 9, which is still pretty sad. It was 0 for the longest time, and recently there's been an upkeep of activity. So, we're kind of thrilled about 9. But let's talk about some of the flaws with this once we see what our prize is. What are you going to take? She's going holiday. The chocolates? Chocolates it is. All right. So adverse events. When you open that up, you come to the event details up here. And from there, you can do was it expected, is it serious? And then it has current grade. So it's really oncology focused. And it's all based on CTCAE version 5. So that automatically excludes everyone who's not doing oncology research. That's problem number 1. And then also on the oncology side, it doesn't give you attributions to disease or drug, which makes it not so popular in the cancer center. But I'm still going to be the believer that it's going to be fixed one of these days. So here's the details that you can put. The wonderful thing about this is you can send that adverse event, and then it automatically opens up. You can put your investigator in there, and you hit send. And then the investigator can log in and actually see a folder that says adverse event review. So to me, this is an awesome workflow. It just needs tweaked. So I'm going to be the believer in this until we get it right. Yeah. It should be, yes.
Similar to like when you send a chart.
Yes, yes. And then there's a report that you can run too. So I like this for investigator-initiated studies. If you wanted to see all the adverse events that happened, just run that report, and then you have a nice report of everything. So no extra log to have to track that in. Okay, we're still in February. February, we went to widescreen view for encounters. And even as I was looking at the slide for February, I thought, this just doesn't look right, because we changed it in May. So in February, we went from having a research encounter navigator to these chunky buttons over here. Yes, they're actually called chunky buttons. And so we went from the navigator to doing our documentation in rooming, plan, and wrap-up. And then we also got the visit taskbar across the bottom here. So in any open encounter, you could easily go ahead and put in your order and then sign it. We also got My Chart Recruitment. So this is exciting. I know Dr. Parra took a long time working with the IRB to get this to happen. So, and this is actually doing recruitment using My Chart. So there's a pretty long process with this. If you're interested in this, you reach out to the CCTS, to Tiffany Bernard, and then she kind of coordinates and makes sure you have IRB-approved language that's going to push out through My Chart. And then she works with the IW, who pulls the list of patients, and then Research Clinical Applications pushes out the message. But this is a screenshot of what that message might look on the patient's end. And then they could indicate if they're interested or they would like to respectfully decline. So here we got 3 questions here, so get your guesses ready. The first one, how many studies were used for the pilot? 4. Okay. All right. Remember your number, remember your guess if you shout it out. How many patients were contacted during the pilot? 100,000. Okay. Okay, all right. And then how many patients did not wish to be contacted? 7, someone said 7, 200. What else do we have? 50, okay. All right, so how many studies were used in the pilot? 4. Raise your hand 4. Okay. And then how many patients were contacted during the pilot? What were my guesses? Shout out your guess again. 100,000, that's right. My 100,000 is the winner. Actually, it was more than that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was a little less than that. Getting ahead of myself, but we'll go with that. What'd you get? No, she got one. She got one. It's 40,000. We didn't have a 40,000. We had 2 100,000s. So raise your hand, 100,000s. Okay, okay, fine. No, that's okay. Let her choose. It's fine. We're good. And then how many patients did not wish to be contacted? Did someone say 0? Oh, there was a 0. Raise your hand, 0. She got the best gift. It says, I'm kind of a big deal. Nameplate. I'm kind of a big deal. Yeah. Yep. So here are our numbers. So there were 4 studies. These are the 4 studies. It shows you how many patients were messaged in each of those, and then 2 patients out of the 40,000 wish to not be contacted. So those are pretty good numbers. Now, what I can't give you is the back end of that, how many patients ended up being contacted or how many were actually recruited, but at least this is the front end information on that. So moving on with My Chart for recruitment, if a patient is interested, the researcher has the ability to do this report that's right off of their dashboard, And then they also get a research recruitment in-basket message if the patient is interested. And then this is just looking at that in-basket notification. It also shows you if the patients are on more than one study, which is kind of nice because sometimes that's exclusionary. Now here's something to think about. If you haven't done this, maybe it's something that you want to do. We have the ability to add studies so that they are viewable in MyChart. You have to put in a ticket to do that, though. It's not something that's automatic. So if you would like patients on your study to be able to log into MyChart and see that they are actively participating, just fill out an e-services ticket. We also, in February, started the ability to route results for study-related orders. So if you put in an order for your patient, you should be able to get the results of that in your in-basket. It used to be, when we first launched this in February, that you had to put in a ticket to get that functionality, but then it was worked out with the research billing office that they would activate this for every study. And then this screenshot is just showing you that if you don't want that feature, the research billing office can get in there and suppress it so that that doesn't happen. We had some changes to research billing in February. So first up, in the research studies activity, there was a line item there for the coverage analysis, whether or not that was done and applicable. And then these lower two screenshots are from your research billing charge review. And the process itself did not change, just the look of it did. And we used to have drop-down menus that you'd have to select from, but now we just have these speed buttons there, which makes it a little bit easier for you. We also got this research billing dashboard. So in February, when you log into Research Home, there was a down arrow. And when you click that, it opens up and you get this search field here. You can type in research. And then you can see all the research dashboards that you can have. And this research billing charge review report is there. And if you click this star right there, you can make it a favorite. And then once it's a favorite, it's always going to be on your dashboard. So if you're one of those people who is responsible for doing research billing charge review, that just makes it really easy for you. And you just run that report, and it's got all the studies that you need to address. All right, that was February. Any questions about February? Feeling okay? All right. May. So in May, we got the storyboard. So I kind of feel like in February, we made all these really significant changes, and then we did it again in May. So we went to the storyboard, and the storyboard, the whole concept behind that is they wanted a way to be able to tell the patient's story without having a clinician have to click around a lot. So, and as you move down the storyboard, you get all these call-out windows that kind of makes it easier to see what's going on, again, without having to go into chart review or the labs tab or results review or wherever. So here's our next question. I think this is our last one, so I know you're all going to be really rushing to answer this. How many Epic customers implemented Storyboard prior to OSU? So how many people were out there using Storyboard? 8, 2, 1. Who said 1? No one. No one. We got a no one. And he's our winner. 0. Nice job. Holiday or every day? What are you feeling? Every day. All right. So yeah, we were the first Epic customer to use the Storyboard. So we are bestowed with that honor. Awesome. Oh, that's a good one. My son saw that last night. He was dying for it. It's the cactus pen. Yeah, pretty cool. No one will take your pen. They'll be too embarrassed. All right, so here's a look at the storyboard. And once again, like I was saying, if you just hover with your cursor over top of these items here on the storyboard, you get call-out windows, and it's really nice, especially when you get down to the problem list. For example, with diabetes, if your patient has diabetes, it will give you the labs that are most recent, medications. It's kind of like a nice one-stop shop. So let's talk about the storyboard and research, because this made some changes for us. So one thing is that we got a new icon, which is right here. This indicates, as you know now well enough, that a patient is on a research study. But if a patient is not on a study, you don't see it. Now, right here is my chart, and this patient's down on my chart, and it's grayed out with a line through it. Now, wouldn't it be nice if they did that for research? Well, they didn't. So, so we move on. One of the problems that came up was that for someone who has in-basket only access, they had a hard time seeing research activities. So there had to be a hyperlink put on for people with those access so they could get in there and see research participation. All right, so the storyboard not only impacts how you look at a patient, but also your research study work cues. And that's what this screenshot is showing you. And in the storyboard, I should say, in the storyboard here is your research study and information related to that. We also got Lifetime in May, and I think Lifetime is kind of a neat feature. So from the Encounters tab of Chart Review, it's showing you where the Lifetime button is, and it allows you to time travel. So there's a little bar across the bottom, and you can move it backwards or forwards. So if you wanted to see what was happening with the patient in September of 2017, just time travel back, and then you have a column that shows you what was going on, and you can just hover over those features, and it'll tell you medications, it'll tell you what that problem specifically was. So it's a nice feature. We also got edit signed orders in the visit taskbar. So if an order's been signed, but someone needs to go back and make changes to that, you can just click on that little pencil, and it will discontinue the prior order, and you can make changes for the new order. We also got new Synopsis Reports. I am a huge fan of Synopsis Reports. This chevron is clicked up there, and now you can see them all. Our new ones were neurology and sleep medicine. So get in there and look at your neurology and sleep medicine Synopsis Reports if that applies to you. We got some new tabs in Chart Review. This one's calling out the Authorizations tab, so if there's been any pre-approvals, you'll be able to get in and see those. So in May, we got the Research ADT in-basket notification. So before that time, OSU had their own customized in-basket notifications. So we had the ED one, we had research patient deceased. Hopefully that sounds familiar to some of you. But Epic came out with their own Research ADT in-basket notification. So to stay in line with model functionality, we took that. So you get one generic message that says that the patient may have been discharged, they may have been admitted. So you just have to click in there and open up and see what's happening with the patient. So that was May. Any questions about any of those items? Yeah.
When it says the research staff have to be associated with the study for those notifications.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to talk about that? Okay. So in order for, and I'll talk about this a little bit at the end, but in order for someone to get the Research ADT notification, you have to be listed on the study in IHES, okay? And it also is dependent on what type of study it is. So if it's an observational study, for example, these won't fire. So there is certain conditions that have to be in place. And then, so if the patient's associated to the study, you're associated to the study. The study type is interventional, but we'll look at the study types at the end. They will fire.
When you say associated, do you mean like listed in the research action plan?
The patient?
No, the researcher.
So the researcher, so we just went with Encore. So for new studies moving forward, if you're listed in Encore, that would integrate over and you should get the notifications. If your study's not up on Encore or you're a part of a research team that's never gonna roll that out, then you wanna make sure with the research billing office that you're listed on the study. Okay, does that help? Okay. All right, in June we went to single sign-on. So I have this slide here, even though it didn't impact research, just to tell you the breadth of single sign-on. They had 15,000 clinical users that went live with it, along with 15,000 devices, 2 million taps monthly, 1.5 million IHIS Epic logins every month, and you can see the hours. So they're gonna be expanding this out to faculty offices and medical students, which I have on the next slide. This was a really popular question I got back in June, is when are we going to single sign-on? So research was not part of the initial scope for single sign-on. I asked in preparation of this presentation, because I knew someone was gonna ask me, because it seemed like researchers really wanted to do this. So I was told that there's a good possibility that in the calendar year of 2020 that researchers will be included, but that's not definite yet. Okay, so that's what I know. Then came July. And in July, we had the Beaker and Soft go live. So Beaker is the lab module of Epic. And one of the reasons that we did that is really for this positive patient identification process. So we really felt like it was gonna help with patient safety. And the big thing about that was the printers. You had to have a printer that would print off the labels for the registration piece. Then you have to scan the patient, scan the tube. There's a lot going on with that workflow. If you were doing just a research blood draw, you didn't really have to worry about it too much because the medical center lab was not going to be processing that. So it was really only applicable if you had research labs that were going to be processed by the medical center. So the other thing was the SOFT, which is the Transfusion Services Information System that we also went live with. And during that time, they really pulled out Beaker from the Muppets as their symbol of this module. So one of the things that I just want to remind you as far as the whole Beaker rollout is that they had a lot of issues with the labels going on the tubes, which part of me would think, well, wasn't that an issue before? What made it so different now? I'm not sure the answer of that. But just your reminders that you place the label directly under the cap. Make sure it's on straight and not crooked. One of the things I learned too is that the tubes are scanned between 30 and 40 times. And the automation process in the lab is pretty impressive if you've ever had an opportunity to go. And I actually was lucky enough to do that, which is part of my next slide. But one of the things they were trying to do after the Beaker rollout is put the word top on the label to be able to help people to get that label on correctly. Then they found that that word was interfering with how the machines were reading the tube, so they took it off. So this is just my due diligence to remind you that if you are going to be labeling those tubes, to make sure you put the label on straight, put it down a little bit so you can see the top, and just recognize it is going to be scanned a lot. So I got to tour the critical care lab about a month after Beaker went live just to kind of understand those processes. This is just one machine. I took this picture because I thought it was so cool. There's like a racetrack here, and I blew it up so it's kind of grainy a little bit. But tubes are literally in these little racetracks in these holders, like there. And they go through all these machines, and it figures it all out. I'm fascinated. I'll never understand. I'll keep my day job. All right. One thing about Beaker 2 is that there were e-learnings that were created for the rollout just to help be able to train the masses for how to do this workflow. I had to actually support for the Beaker Go Live. I viewed the ambulatory staff one about 7 times until I was positive I got it. They're done pretty well, so if you still feel like you need a refresher on that workflow, just hop into Buckeye Learn and go ahead and take one of these lab collection e-learnings. Any questions about that?
And so you said that's specific for if the labs are going to...
Yes, if the medical center is going to process those labs, that's when the Beaker workflow applies. Any other questions with that? Okay. So August, there was so much that happened over the summer and the spring. We kind of got a break in August. Other clinical users did not, but we did in clinical research. And that takes us to November. So in November 2019, you probably already know this. I don't even need to say anything. But that's when we integrated with Encore. So in terms of enrollment statuses, we got rid of the Epic enrollment statuses and we took the Encore enrollment statuses. So this is just a screenshot showing you what all those are. I feel like we had 8 or 9 before and then we went up to 19. So more selection for you. Here's study types, which kind of goes back to our in-basket notification. So at the very top, hold on here. There we go. These were the 4 study types we used to have in IHIS. Again, these are EPIC study types. And investigational device was deleted altogether. And then interventional, observational, and specimen were renamed. And only the top one there, interventional, is going to trigger in-basket notifications. The other 2 won't. And then we got all of these new study types right here. And then you have the column that tells you which will trigger in-basket notifications and which won't. So if you're interested in that feature for your study and you want to make sure you have it or you don't want it at all, make sure you pay close attention to your study type. Okay. The other thing that happened in November was a name change. We went from DocLink to CareLink. Nothing else changed with this process. It only changed its name. So for us on the back end, that means we have to change all of our materials, just for a name change. So it does create a lot of work for us with a simple name change or even a background color. If everything else is the same, but the background color changes, we have to go through and change it out.
Why did they change it there?
I don't know, and I love that question. I don't know. Why did they change the name was the question, and I don't know the answer. I would have been more prepared and asked. Yeah. I'm going to ask, though, when I get back. It is. Yeah, why? It was fine with DocLink. And you know what? We're all probably still going to call it DocLink, right? Because we're so programmed to do so. So the last thing I have for you, and thank you, everyone, for being so patient here with me today, is what's coming in 2020. So one thing is e-learning transitions. So right now I'm in the midst of working on research billing. I probably have it about 60% done. And then our hope is to go ahead and transition the rest of our research training over to e-learning. Adverse events, remember I told you I'm a big believer in this. Well, there have been conversations with Epic about maybe taking out that grading and making it mild, moderate, severe. So I'm never going to give up on adverse events until at least somebody can find it a really useful functionality in the system, although someone does because there's 9 adverse events in the system. And then dashboards. There's really been a concentration on dashboards and how to make those more useful for you guys. So when you log in, you have the research dashboard, that homepage. So what I'm referring to is taking that homepage and making it more practical for you so we can tie in some of the research billing pieces if you work in a program and you have to manage that in terms of how much money is outstanding that you need to reconcile, putting the actual research reports that you have to go and find in Reporting Workbench, actually putting them on the front so you don't have to go looking for that. So we're hoping sometime in the spring we can roll out some really neat dashboards for you. And that's all I have. So any questions about anything related to IHIS? Yeah.
I have it's a specific question, but it was bothering one of our research
Oh,
participants
no.
and nobody could fix it, is the picture that shows up of the
Yeah.
participants on there, and this person in particular is a transgender woman, and
Okay.
the picture that she has on there is like before her transition, but looks like a man, and
Uh-huh.
so since we're so saying that we're improving the
Yeah.
sexual orientation, nobody could tell me how to change that picture.
Did you, off the top of my head, I would say to just put in a ticket with a help desk with that medical number and say remove the picture.
Okay.
I would just try that.
Okay.
And then whenever she comes in next time, then and registers with someone that has that camera and can take a picture, then they can update it. But I would start with just removing it.
Okay.
That's a good question. And yeah.
You know why, so you have the beeper if they are active on a research study.
Yeah.
Why does that go away if, once they come, if they're off study? Because sometimes you still want to see what.
The inactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear ya. And I'm not up here to project my opinion, but I felt like that was really disappointing that, like I showed you the example of my chart. Like, someone's not active at my chart, it's grayed out with a line through it, but I don't know why Epic did that. You'd have to go to Epic to patient care to research studies to open up that research studies activity if they were previously on a study, and then there's a box that says inactive, and you can click on that and see their prior participation. It's a gazillion more clicks as opposed to just having it right there. So I'm sorry, I'm not happy with it either, but that's what we got. One thing I will say about that too is that symbol, which is it's the Erlenmeyer flask, as they say at Epic, with a little man, as Paula says it. So because that looks so similar to Results, because Results has that Erlenmeyer flask too, Epic is gonna change that symbol. I heard it might be sometime in 2020. I don't know what they're gonna change it to, but you'll see that at some point because it's too confusing with the lab indication. So something else to come. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of disappointed too. I really am. The suggestion box, yeah, and you know what, thank you for saying that, because once a year we are expected at Ohio State to give suggestions to Epic in terms of what kind of development that we would like to see. Please, 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 if you have a suggestion on how the system could work better, let me know, and I can add that into the suggestions coming out of Ohio State. In years past, someone, I don't know if it was someone in this room, but someone suggested about contraindicated medications, and sometimes on studies, if they take a certain other type of medication, then that might mess up your intervention, to make that an alert, and that was sent up to Epic, and they did develop that. We haven't rolled it out here yet. There's some questions with pharmacy about that, but my point being that if you have an idea, please suggest it, because chances are it could get developed by Epic. So don't hesitate to do that, and I sincerely mean that. Great questions. Anything else that's on your mind or would you like to talk out? Well, again, I'm Paula Smales. Thank you for coming. And if you do have any questions, feel free to talk to me afterwards or send me an email, and we'll get it figured out. So thank you. So Amy, you get to pick your prize. Pick your prize. Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for coming.